You know what I'm saying? And just like, breaking down, like, nah, from here it becomes that. From here, that becomes this, And I never had to do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, they was out of here. But, it was all stuff that I think was lent to us as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, cats were real selfless with us and always willing to help us. And one thing I left out that I think was really instrumental in me becoming the artist that I became was that both of my parents at different points in their lives sung in bands. So I'd be at rehearsal with my mom. She was a singer in a band. I'd be at rehearsal with my dad. He was heavy into the doo-wop stuff, you know what I'm saying? And, and he'd always bring out the congos in the park. He'd have the whole park lit up with a bunch of Puerto Rican cats playing bongos, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in a musical family. Even my stepfather introduced me to a lot of music that I don't think I probably would have heard. He listened to, AC/DC and all the way to brass construction to, he was just really well-rounded. And everybody around me just was really deep into music. So I heard a lot of music growing up. And even if I didn't recognize it at that point, as I got older and started digging for loops and what have you, because even though Long did probably 95% of the production on the first album, I contributed loops to him or records to him. Like, check this out. I remember I specifically pause button Le Fleur for Similac Child. I pause button that myself for like 3 minutes, you know what I'm saying, just so I could write the rhyme. Long went on to expound upon it, you know what I'm saying, like he put the loops around it, but that record was, conceptually, like something that I brought to the table, and I would always contribute a loop or two here to there, or help with the arrangement. And even him making the tracks, it was always a choice. Like I only kind of pulled from the tracks he made that resonated with me. Every track he made, I didn't rhyme on. Only the ones that I thought was for us. You know what I'm saying? So, if he, but Long was really dope. Like if he made 5 tracks, I like 3 of them for us. You know what I'm saying? Like he was really just a dope cat. But I think it was the company. Sometimes I think we bring out the best in each other when we're together, you know what I'm saying? And not to take a shot at him or anything like that, but I see my influence in how dope he was as well when I'm away from him. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm away from him and started hearing some of the stuff he was doing, he's dope. But, you know what I'm saying? I know for a fact that I would kind of push him in certain directions that would bring certain things out of him. You know what I'm saying? And or let him know, like one of the words that we would use for our sound was bizarro. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to take something that was just not your norm. We definitely wasn't trying to take something that was known and like it hurt like when Puff started like just taking a disco break and those started becoming hits because it killed the artistry of what we were doing. You know what I'm saying? Like he simplified it, and it was unfortunate because what we was doing was really creating something, taking tidbits and making them bigger, you know what I'm saying? And for you to just take a disco break and rhyme on it, like anybody could do that, you know what I'm saying? Right. We were taking these little tidbits and matching them to a little tidbit from a whole different genre, or, you know what I'm saying, like, exactly what De La, exactly what Jungle, exactly what Tribe was doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's an artistry to it. And, once it became easy to win, taking, a disco break, then, like it started diminishing what we were doing because as well as having to get a sample cleared and this and the other, now you just got to clear that. Right. We were taking these little tidbits and creating something that didn't exist prior, you know what I'm saying? And introducing you to artists that you didn't know, you know what I'm saying? So, like we came, and there's a whole gamut of cats that represented that, you know what I'm saying? The Pete Rocks, the Premiers, you know what I'm saying? The Large Professors, you know what I'm saying? Like there was a whole contingency of cats that represented having a DJ's ear, you know what I'm saying? And putting something dope together that didn't exist before that. Right. So, you know, like we all had that, and we all pushed that to the forefront at the time. And you know, like I hate that sample clearance became such an issue, and I hate, you know, like I hate that the dumbing down of our music started happening, and eventually, you know, saying like, you know, it's kind of like the streets to a degree, that big bank takes little bank, you know, saying, whereas once it became you can do something so simple and make huge money, you know, like then it was easy for them to kind of swallow up what we was doing, you know what I'm saying, and even kind of nullify it. Whereas, you know, like, nah, that's not what you want, you know what I'm saying? This is what you want, you know what I'm saying? And I've got all of the flash to put on top of it to keep your attention off of that. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, slowly it started becoming, you know, whereas where we were at the forefront of the genre at one time, we're now underground, you know what I'm saying? And it was unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? Because like, not only were we really creative and really bringing something, and we were creating something, we also stood for something, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, like, you know, like the natives, to me, like it hurts my heart that it hurts my heart that the native tongue isn't a company, isn't incorporated, isn't branded, that we don't have our own distribution, that we don't have our own tour. Our own tour should have everything in it, from native sound men to stage lighting to the water that you buy into t-shirts, to, you know, all of that should be under the umbrella of native. You know what I'm saying? We should be bringing new cats in under the umbrella of something that's incorporated.
Right.
And I remember bringing this to cats, you know, like I would tell cats this, you know what I'm saying? Back then, I would tell cats this. And I specifically remember my brother Mace telling me it'll never happen. Is, you know, is too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Those were his words. And I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I was like, no, like this is what we got to do. Like, it was almost like I saw how powerful everyone was, but they didn't see it. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like, you know, like we're making these records asking the people to be something that we're not being. Like, we need to lead by example.
Right.
So after the success of the first album, I guess, you know, I kind of saw a lane for myself corporately, and I stepped to the label, and I was like, you know, like, I want to get my own label. I want to imprint. And they were looking at me like, what? So, little known fact, I'm literally the first MC to have an imprint. I had One Love
record,
right. I bought out the Legion, and I bought out this R&B group called Image under One Love Records. I'm the first MC to have an imprint. You know what I'm saying? Like, now the thing that really kind of killed me was that Ed Eckstein, like, he I guess he viewed hip hop as very faddish, you know what I'm saying, to the degree that he gave me a bullshit deal. But I was just glad to get a deal. My whole thing was like, it doesn't matter, it's a bullshit deal, I'm gonna show you what I'm capable of.
Right.
So he probably gave me about $300,000 to bring out 3 acts. You know what I'm saying? That was the entire deal. And it might not even have been that much, it might have been about $275. But so I wanted to play fair. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, you know, like, it's not like that's a lot of money to bring out 3 acts on a major label. You know what I'm saying? So I negotiated with the Legion, I negotiated with Image, and I still had one more group that I was supposed to bring to the table. Mind you, out of this entire deal, and what I did as well was with Long, I negotiated with him, whereas I really had wanted it to be a partnership, but the success, man, money will amplify who people are. You know what I'm saying? So when we started getting some success and paper, I remember stepping along and I'm like, look, I'd like to work out a deal with you that like Long was reaping the benefits of being the producer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like Long was a producer and a dope producer. So he felt like, you know, like there was this whole world of production opening up to him, which I thought probably would have been the case as well. So I stepped to him to kind of be each other's kind of crutch to a degree. And I say, Long, like, yo, check this out. I'm getting offers to rhyme on different people's stuff. you're going to start getting offers to produce different people's stuff. Why don't, anytime any one of us do something outside of our group, we give the other one 25% of whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? That way we'll always be all right. You know what I'm saying? If I get a chance to rhyme on somebody's stuff, I'll give you 25%. If you produce something for somebody, you give me 25%. That way we'll always have each other's back. You know what I'm saying? Regardless. And he said no. And I was like, yeah.
Was that the start of the beginning?
That kind of energy was. That kind of energy was the start of the beginning. Because it starts showing you who you're standing next to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm a big advocate of who I'm standing next to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's important to me that I'm standing next to somebody that you ain't got to be, you don't have to be street strong, but you have to be strong as a person. And you have to have a justness to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be white, black, gay. I could care less. If you're a dope person, I'm with you.
Right.
If you're a just person, if you're a fair person, if you're wise and just, you know, like not caught up in the semantics of the world, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm with you. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And once I started seeing that kind of energy, that was cause for concern for me. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I still felt like it wasn't those little things initially for me that you know that I was gonna give him my back. It was just an enlightening, like, oh wow, word,
right?
Oh, all right, cool. So but I still felt like part of me always felt like I could have went solo from the beginning. Like I could have stepped away from the beginning at the peak. But I always felt like it was important to play fair. You know what I'm saying? So, and I also always felt like he helped me. I walked in these doors with him. So I always felt like I owed him something. You know what I'm saying? So even when I felt I might have been slighted or I didn't really dig what just took place, I still was loyal to the situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I always felt like, you know, like, all right, well, I know for a fact I would not be here had we not passed each other in Manhattan and this and the other. Mind you, I always carried, you know, I always carried my own. Like no one carried me, but I was just always loyal to the situation. Right. So when I got the One Love deal, I stepped along, and I'm like, look, Long, you know, like, all right, well, it's unfortunate that you felt like that because, you know, I really thought this was for both of us. But since you let me know that it's not, what I'd like to do is offer you this. Every group that I bring out on One Love, I'd like for you to do 3 songs on. And I'm going to give you 7 G's a piece for each song. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, bet. All right, cool. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of alleviated that. Whereas I felt like I was playing more than fair with him. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it was his decision that we wasn't going to extend this into something that was for us. Only because of his energy letting me know, like, yo, I ain't got your back to that degree.
Right.
You know, all right, cool. I guess you're going to become the super producer, which I could totally see it happening. Like, you know, all right, cool. Well, I guess, you know, that's going to be who you are. And I'll figure it out. Right. You know what I'm saying? So he did 3 songs on Image. He did 3 songs on The Legion. I paid him 7 for each. You know what I'm saying? This is my word. Out of that whole deal, the only thing I got out of it was I got a new engine in my car. Literally, out of that whole deal. What happened was this, you know, like the albums are done, the albums are completed. Mercury is saying like, yo, these are 2 dope projects. So they stepped to me and they're like, yo, we'd like to offer them a publishing deal. Both groups, we want to offer them both a publishing deal. And so I'm like, okay, tell me about the deal. They wanted us to sign the same deal. They wanted them to sign the same deal that we signed. We signed a bullshit publishing deal. Our publishing deal, we signed over half of our publishing for $50,000. I didn't realize it at the time. You know what I'm saying? When you're young and someone offers you, we didn't even know to the degree how important publishing was. You know what I'm saying? And y'all willing to give us $50,000 worth, which was only $25 a piece. But mind you, once the success of A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing had happened, they were paid back the first check. You know what I'm saying? Like the first check we would, they had their 50. You know what I'm saying? The first publishing check, literally, they were paid back. I've been in a publishing agreement with them for 30 years now. So they've reaped benefits for 30 years behind something that they were paid back for the first check. But I peeped it from the door. So I was like, you really want me to bring that deal to them? He's like, yeah, at this at X time, the president of the company. So I'm like, yeah, I'll bring it to him. So I bring it to him, but I also tell him, yo, this is the same deal that we signed, and I wish we had it. You know what I'm saying? I said, mind you, no one knows if you're going to be successful. No one knows if it's just going to be, if this is going to fall flat on its face, or you're going to about to be big stars. I think y'all guys are going to be big stars. I wish I hadn't signed the publishing deal that I signed. The same deal that we signed, they asking me to bring to y'all. I'm not going to tell y'all not to sign it, but I am going to tell y'all I wish I hadn't signed it. You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's a gamble. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying, like there's cats that'll come up with something and it's not successful and they'll wish that they had took that money. You know what I'm saying? Because that was it. It was one and done. You know what I'm saying? Right. So they wish they had extra 50,000. Right. But it was for them to make their own decision. But I let them know, like, yo, I believe in y'all. And I think you guys are going to be big stars. And I wish I hadn't signed that, but I can't tell y'all what to do. So they decided not to sign it. To which I was like, yo, I agree with that. You know what I'm saying? And so I go back to edX sign and I'm like, yo, they felt like that, you know, wasn't a fair deal. Do you know that edX sign, now this was such a lesson for me. edX sign, you know, I learned that that's really how the label makes their paper. And that's really dictates what they're really about to push. You know what I'm saying? If you sign, now mind you, I probably could have negotiated a much better deal. Well, I wish Chris Lighty was our first manager. Right. So I wish Chris had negotiated a much better deal. You know what I'm saying? But mind you, hip hop was young at the time. You know what I'm saying? Cats wasn't really seeing numbers to the degree that, you know, going gold was the goal. Like going platinum was, you know, like a pipe dream. To go gold was reachable. That was attainable. But out of every 100 albums that came out, maybe one will go gold. Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Might have been maybe one out of every 200. So even Chris, in negotiating that deal, probably felt like he did a good deal getting $50,000 out of him. Right. You know, like this is early, you know what I'm saying, as far as, you know, just that time period. And there wasn't a lot of cats signed to majors at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you might get on a Warlock or what have you, or 4th and Broadway, but, you know, we were on a major label, you know, with, you know, the likes of Bon Jovi and, you know, like any other, we're on a major label. So, you know, it was a bullshit publishing deal that they wound up turning down. And once we turned it down, edX Sign didn't try to renegotiate. He dropped the groups. To which I was blown away. Like, I was blown away because, like, Imaj, like, a lot of people don't know who Imaj is. And another thing, he did the first single for them. He didn't even give me an opportunity to put out something that I did for them, you know, or pick something that I had done with them. You know what I'm saying? He picked a single from them. The joint was called The Choice Is Yours. He was trying to, you know, leech off of the success of the record, The Choice Is Yours. There was a record called The Choice Is Yours. He did the remix himself with his crew. They put it out. It didn't blow up out the water. They didn't sign the publishing deal. The Legion put out Jingle Jangle, which definitely was something to stand on. They didn't sign the publishing deal. Their next single didn't blow out the water to the degree that Jingle Jangle was blowing. And his single, the single that he picked, didn't do anything.
Hey, Dres, I hate to cut you off. We're going to get right back into it. Instagram's about to kick me off in 20 seconds.
Okay.
So I'm going to get off, and then I'm going to come right back on. Just hold that thought and just join me in about 30 seconds.
Sounds good.
Everybody, join back on. This is getting good. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. So I'm going to log off and then get right back on.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. See you in a minute.
All right.